Welcome, everyone, to episode 50 of the Thundercraps podcast, where we forge through the shitstorm that was WCW Thunder. I am your host, Josh Kaiser. And joining me today, somewhere on the Ginza selling snow cones, Kyle Hoagland.
What is going on, everybody? I'm just trying to figure out what level of pride or shame that we are at right now. I feel like it's a fair balance that we're at episode 50 of Thundercraps, but man,
if you're saying you're balancing pride and shame, I would say it's 50-50.
This fucking guy. What's going on, dude?
There we have it. I mean, I feel like on that line, we should just end the podcast right there because it's all downhill after here.
We are whiplashingly out of time. See ya.
No, I mean, it's exciting. 50 episodes. I mean, 52 when we can say we fully went through an entire calendar year of recording, where, of course, we're already in February of 1999, so we've gone through a full calendar year of Thunder. And, man, I don't know about you. I looked through your notes before, as I was putting them together. We have differing opinions on things, and I'm kind of excited to talk about episode 50, and I feel like it's a special episode.
What do you mean by special? I mean, what about this, other than just the moniker of it being episode 50? Like, what makes this? And without really giving too much, we can tease a little bit. Obviously, we've got an hour. We usually go between 45 to an hour. But what makes it special to you?
I mean, there's so much to digest in this episode. We've got random storylines that mean absolutely nothing. We've got friends turning on friends. But most importantly, it's February 11th, 1999, and we open the show with Tori Wilson.
And I think I really underestimated how beautiful she's. Like a naturally beautiful woman. She is a type of person that if you woke up in the morning with, she's still gorgeous. Like, she's not a person that looks like she's caked with makeup or whatever the case may be. She is just like a homegrown beautiful woman. And I feel like at 14 years old at this point, if I was watching Thunder, I would have had a lot of feelings coursing through that old 14-year-old body of mine.
I mean, the 34-year-old body of mine had some feelings coursing through it as I saw her. So, and no better way to open the show than her sitting at a pool table, talking to me directly and telling me she has a party inside and how cool I am. Right?
By the way, a party. When you say a party inside, I think she meant in her limo or her hotel. I don't know what she said. I know she said she had a limo out back. I just thought, like, how 90s is it to be like, hey, I saw you with those guys. They looked really cool. Like, wow, great.
All I know is if I was tuning into TBS, I am hooked and ready for 2 hours of non-stop action.
I mean, it's not Silk Stockings type of turn on, but I'll take it for sure.
That said, then we go to our Thunder opening. Tony lets us know Thunder is on the air, which you couldn't get more factual of a statement for a pre-taped episode. But that's what we've got. We are 10 days from Super Brawl, Flair and Hogan, the match we have been waiting for at least a month now.
Yeah, about that much.
Of course, Bobby Heenan, Tony Schiavone, Mike Tenay, they do their pre-taped opening. It's the last time you'll see them. We find out we got more tag teams in the tournament tonight. They give more generic Hogan versus Flair, talking about the anticipation of the match. And one of them lets us know that it's going to be a Super Brawl, which is... Yeah. So that said, the tag team tournament continues, Kyle. Mike Enos and Bobby Duncombe Jr., apparently their first elimination where they got squashed heavily is not their... does not mean they're eliminated. They're still in this tag team tournament.
I told you. Dude, I called it. And second of all, how dare you forget that they are now calling Mike Enos Mean Mike Enos?
Because it's fucking blasphemy. We already have a Mean Mike.
Well,
and he and Tough Tom should be in the tag team tournament.
Oh, hey, look, I'm not disagreeing with you. And once again, maybe if they looked at it, hindsight's 20/20. I'm sure when they look back, they're like, man, this tag team tournament really needed something. Apparently, they just, They just didn't see it. They didn't see the workhorses of Mean Mike and Tough Tom that they really are. But I just found it funny that they go in there. Here comes Mean Mike Enos, and I'm like, did Mike Enos and like Mean Mike have like a ceremonial fight to the death to see who would get the moniker of Mean? Because I think that's what happened. I wonder if we'll ever see Mean Mike again. And if we never do, then I want to take this moment right now to raise a toast to Mean Mike. You will be sorely missed.
Well, if he did take the moniker of Mean Mike, it won't be the last time a gimmick has been purchased or stolen in tonight's show. That said, Mike Enos, Bobby Duncombe Jr. teaming up against the first family of Ming and Barbarian with Jimmy Hart. We do find that Bobby Heenan is back on Ming and Barbarian. It's such a stupid thing. He did it with World War III too, but I can't help but like laugh when he just continues to pick people. This match for me was really slow. But we did see two pile drivers, so that's
and two
something.
pile drivers in like 45 seconds of each other.
It was very quick. There was a double diving headbutt by the first family, which was kind of cool, right? I mean, you don't see that.
Did you also notice that? Did you notice too that the comment? And also, I understand this is a pre-recorded show, so sometimes the audio mixing can be a little fucked up. The commentary was very, very low in many parts of this match.
Yeah,
and I had a real hard time. I think at some point they were talking about the whole Steiner DDP. I guess. Their feud that's going on, the whole thing with Kimberly. I couldn't make heads or tails of anything they were talking about because everything that was going on in the ring was 4 times louder than them, and it was actually really annoying.
Yeah, it was pretty bad, and I can't tell whether that was on their end or something with the network, the way the episode got put up there. But yeah, there was definitely something going on. First family pretty much controlling the match, though, doing a lot of that, getting Mike Enos to come into the ring, so then the ref would push him away, and then they would double team Bobby Duncombe Jr. Mike Enos tries to headbutt Ming, which is a no-no. Jimmy Hart all of a sudden yells at the Barbarian, and the Barbarian kicks Ming in the back of the head. Oh, shit. And Bobby Duncombe Jr. and Mike Enos move on in the tournament as Barbarian and Jimmy Hart screwed Ming. I gave the match 2 stars. I thought it started.
How dare you?
I thought it started slow. I thought it went on too long. And whether you like it or not, I just appreciated that there was a storyline on a pre-taped show that involved Barbarian turning on Ming. And, for that, I gave it a 2-star rating because I was happy to see some sort of legit storyline on a pre-taped Thunder. I mean, you can't ask for much more than that, right?
First of all, Barbarian and Jimmy Hart did not screw Ming. Ming screwed Ming. I gave this a 1.5 stars. Match was stupid long. 13 minutes of something that I would have loved to have gotten. You don't want to
see Ming, Barbarian, Bobby Duncombe, and Mike Enos for 13 minutes?
We did last week. So I was done. We were good with having 13 minutes. I think they fought, the B team last week? They were the only team that had a promo. I don't know if anyone remembers this, but they actually had like a Thunder promo with the fact that Jimmy Hart brought back Ming and the Barbarian, the old faces of fear, now the first family, bunch of Fs everywhere. And what the F was this about? They're out like the first team out of this tournament.
Yes,
and they
were
the only ones.
Storyline. That's why they were building this whole Jimmy Hart getting back together just to get his revenge on Ming.
But once again, that was the storyline before they got back together. Like they were like beating up each other. Ming was gone for like 6 months.
No better plans for them than, all right, Ming, you and Barbarian are feuding again.
And once again, like nobody wants to see Mean Mike Enos and Bobby Duncombe Jr. go further in this tournament. I'm okay with the swerve.
They also lost twice.
Well, no. They got squashed by a team that wasn't in the card. Yes, they did, but they weren't in the tournament, so it didn't count.
Embarrassing.
If they wanted to do this swerve, do it later. Do it when make it when maybe like they're fighting. I don't know. I'm just gonna make up a team that's still in it. Benoit Malenko or something like that. Make it that like how they get on, how they move on. Don't put Bobby Duncombe Jr. and Mike Enos over on accident. Like the match wasn't very good. The only thing I saw was 2 pile drivers. That was cool.
If Mike Enos and Bobby Duncombe Jr. are going to win any matches in the tournament, it has to be on accident or someone screwing over someone because these are the same team that fucking got squashed already.
Yeah, which is why they don't need the win,
No,
and that's what I'm getting at here. Like, I think it would have been more interesting to have them face somebody that was legit and make you feel like the only positive about this is that I went into this assuming Ming and Barbarian were just going to win. Like that was like foregone conclusion. I had no reason to believe that Mike Enos and Bobby Duncombe Jr. were going to move on. So I guess for the expect the unexpected, sure, but that's not going to move my 1.5 star rating.
Fair enough. After this, we get a Canyon and Raven are at Raven's house. Canyon's going to keep an eye on Raven while Raven's mom is at a board meeting. Everyone is, concerned about Raven. Raven looks into the camera and calls Canyon a mark and says he don't get it. And then they get into a nice convertible and ride off.
So one big thing about this is that if you, at the very beginning of this segment, Canyon says out loud, he sighs and goes, how many houses do these guys have? Which suggests that the first couple, we've seen a couple of these segments already with Canyon and Raven and Chastity and Sandman, his mom, grandma, whatever the fuck, all that's going on. And so they were at the house. They were at like their Raven's mom's house to begin with. And then at the beginning of this one, he looks like he's going into a brand new house and be like, man, how many houses do these guys have? And they go in there and she just shows up and goes, oh, hi, Chris. I got to go. I got to go to board meeting. Bye. I'm like, oh, God, the script is just amazing. And then he goes into the living room, which is the same living room from the first house. Yes, it was. Which made me laugh even more. Like, okay, what was the whole point of like talking about how many houses? Other than just showing he gets money. Yeah, they got money. Oh yeah, or they have the exact same floor plan in all their houses that they own. I'm actually thoroughly enjoying these little video packages, especially now because it's so weird that now it seems like Raven. It seems like they're kind of hinting that Raven is just playing everybody. So I'm looking forward to the rest of these. I'm assuming we're going to see more of these.
Yes, but not next because we get a Goldberg Bam Bam promo, which we saw last week. And then we get our first sign of the night. It says, even trade my wife for a Nitro girl. So hopefully this guy's wife was not watching, where he's basically trying to pawn her off for a Nitro girl.
But but he said even trade.
That's true.
Which leads to believe that he probably thinks quite highly of his wife. He thinks that she's hot enough that an even trade would be a Nitro girl. That's all I think about it. So you know what? Not a mean sign, although maybe a little bit poor taste.
Speaking of Nitro girls, our first replay of the night follows this, and it's DDP attacking Scott Steiner. They're out by the outside the arena. They're battling by a car. DDP's yelling Kimberly to get into the car. Then security guards hold DDP off while Scott Steiner's able to get in the car and drive off with Kimberly. Then you see the great action shot of Kimberly getting tossed out of the car. We cut away from commercial and come back. Kimberly's being loaded onto a stretcher into an ambulance, and that's your segment. So apparently Scott Steiner beating up on women.
Man, I didn't know that Kimberly did her own stunts, right?
Right. After this, we get our promo for Lex Luger and Kevin Nash versus Conan and Ray. Of course, this is Mask versus Hair being Miss Elizabeth. And then we go to the Canyon and Raven segment again. They're heading to the bank for Raven to flex off his rich muscles. Of course, the bank manager there meeting him. He tells the woman, who's going to help him. And this is when Raven's going to order or request $10,000 in ones. And then Canyon asks what it's for, and Raven kind of rolls his eyes as he looks into the camera. And then he also asks for $10,000 in big bills. And Canyon seems to be blown away by these figures. But I got to be honest, $20,000, if you're trying to flex, show Raven as just this baller, rich-ass dude, I feel like you should have picked a higher number than $10,000 of each, right?
I mean, have you ever taken out $10,000 twice just for the fuck of it? Once again, depending on what they're doing, he's just going out for one night. $20,000 for a night, that's quite a bit of money. So
that's fair, but at the time, I don't think Canyon knows what he's doing. So, I feel like he should have said $100,000 or $50,000 or something. I don't know. $10,000 just didn't land on me as holy shit kind of money.
I guess so, but hey, maybe there's a limit at the bank. Maybe you can only take out $10,000 at a time.
Fair enough. After this, we get Lash Leroux in his Thunder debut, wrestling Super Calo. We do find out that actually on the February 2nd edition of Nitro, so a little over a week and a half ago, Lash Leroux debuted in a match against Kidman, and apparently he lost, but he looked really good in the match. And that's actually, side note, how they signed him on completely was after they were impressed with his, kind of his debut match against Kidman. I will say he looked really green in this match. He had a really bad top rope splash. His timing seemed just off a little bit. But he has this cool fireman's carry into like a slam, which is his finisher, and how he won the match. I gave the match a star and 3/4. I thought he looked young and green for sure. But I thought he had a good finisher, and, I could see some potential there in Mr. Leroux.
I gave this 2 stars. I felt the match got better as it kind of marinated. The beginning, I definitely saw the clear indication that these guys didn't have chemistry, which makes perfect sense, which is why I didn't want to, I guess, rate this too low. Because, once again, first of all, I first didn't care for this match, or I didn't want to care. But I feel like commentary actually did a pretty good job of selling me on Lash Leroux after they talked about him having that match with Kidman and kind of took him to the limit and he just, didn't get the win.
Yeah, they built him up well for sure. So
I was good with that, and I'm also happy to see new people, kind of being introduced in the cruiserweights. I feel like we've been kind of seeing the same, round of about 6 people. I guess also Blitzkrieg made his debut either that same week or the week or just this last week as well. Right. And I know growing up, I know how much you loved yourself some Blitzkrieg. The exchanges were a little sloppy. But once again, like I said, you can't expect that from Calo and a newish wrestler who probably lacks chemistry with the roster. All those things being considered, I thought the match was fine. I think it did make Leroux look decent, and I just didn't want to punish them too much. I also did give it a 2-star rating because, once again, Super Calo gets a poke in the eyes. What the fuck, guys? It's now, at this point, it's just fucking funny.
I really need to pay more attention to the poke in the eye for Super Calo matches. But after this, we get a Saturday night promo, which I feel like it's been a little while since we had one of these. We find out Juventud and Rey Mysterio wrestling. Booker T's going to be here. Chris Benoit's going to be here. Kidman will be in action, and then Bryan Adams and Dean Malenko in the main event. So,
why are we not reviewing Saturday night?
It's starting to feel like that's what we should be doing some days.
The last 4 times that we've actually had the Saturday night promo, the card has been baller. I would rather watch that show.
Absolutely, they're selling us well on that card. After that, we get Tori Wilson again. She's in a limo, and she tells me that I'm not shy and asks me to come sit next to her. And then that's it. We go to the next match. Oh, not match. Excuse me. We go to the backstage segment. It's Glacier and the Cat with Sonny Ono back there. They're all chatting. Glacier tells the Cat that he knows that he's the greatest, that he's a 3-time karate champion, and says that the only thing he's missing is a great entrance. And he kind of makes jokes about how it took 6 months of promos before he, debuted, he being Glacier, and tells Cat, think about it. You get the lights, the lasers, and the snow machine. He keeps touching the Cat, and the Cat kind of makes comments about him touching his shirt. And Glacier basically has Sonny Ono broker a deal where the Cat is going to be buying his entrance. So that's something, right?
I think we're slowly seeing the self-dismantling of Glacier in front of our eyes. It's
pretty awesome, actually. And the Cat, for some reason, thinks it's a cool entrance, and that's what he wants. And really, that's the only thing Glacier has. We then go to another tag team tournament match. Dave Taylor and Finlay wrestling Kidman and Chavo Guerrero Jr. And I got to be honest, I would take any of these 4 men to advance in the tag team tournament over the 2 that advanced earlier in Bobby Duncombe Jr. and Mike Enos.
My only note before the bell rung was, I swear to God, if Kidman and Chavo lose. Anyways, moving on.
Heenan, of course, is going to change his pick from Ming and Barbarian to Windham and Hennig. which is a classic Heenan move. It's going to ultimately end. This match is it was decent back and forth, but Chavo's going to eventually drop kick Finlay, who had a chair in his hand, which is going to hit the chair into Kidman. So Finlay's then going to pick Kidman up, drop the tombstone. So I give the match 2 stars. It was okay, but I thought for 4 talented wrestlers, the chemistry in this match between the two teams just wasn't there.
You know what, actually, I had to give him a little bit more credit. First of all, we also got the update that Piper beat Hart for the U.S. title during this point as well. Just wanted to make sure that was dropped. They didn't mention that during this match. And also, Dave Taylor hardly wrestled in this match. And I think that was for the better. I don't know. I mean, what's your favorite Dave Taylor match, Kaiser?
I think he had to go on against Finlay, where they beat the shit out of each other.
Are you sure you're not thinking of Regal?
Oh, yes, I'm thinking of Regal.
I don't remember Dave Taylor much at all. I think Dave Taylor was hanging around with Regal. I think they were like a tag team together, if I remember correctly.
Weren't they with the Blue Bloods or whatever?
Yeah, I think they were. Or was that Bobby Eaton? I don't remember, man. Who gives a fuck? But I gave this actually 2.25 stars. My whole thing I thought was, why is WCW, or why do they think that eliminating all the teams that might be actually interesting be a good idea? Like, I just don't like. Most of these teams have been thrown together, and we're getting more of a team of like Mike Enos and Bobby Duncombe Jr. instead of what we could actually get from like maybe a half decent good cruiserweight team. I think that's a cool like dynamic that we would have like a decent cruiserweight team. This tournament's a fucking disaster, man. I don't get it. Although I will say, I like the storytelling that this match gave. I'm glad that there was some, because if this was just a straight up, Chavo did some, screwed up a little bit, and we didn't find out later that there was some shit that went on, like that was screwed up. Like, if nothing came of this, 1.5 match. But because
I agree
this, but because of the fact that it just seemed like there was more to this, and there was going to be some explaining that I expect WCW to do, I gave it a 2.25, because I do feel like, okay, this has like Super Bowl cruiserweight title match, written all over it. So, and once again, like I said before, Finlay was the MVP in this match. He was probably in there 80%, 90% of the time. I don't know why. You don't want to tag in somebody as pristine of a worker as Dave Taylor, but Finlay definitely did a great job, almost doing a 1-on-2.
That he did. After the match, we go back to the backstage. Glacier has had struck that deal with the Cat for his entrance ramp. Now he's trying to sell his gear to the Cat, which the Cat and Sonny Ono are laughing at because they don't want any part of this Mortal Kombat get up. And this is when Sonny Ono flags over Kaz Hayashi. So he comes over, and Kaz Hayashi and Sonny are talking in Japanese back and forth, as Sonny kind of interprets between Glacier and Kaz as he tries to sell Glacier's outfit. Glacier will say like $5,000 for the pants. Sonny Ono will sell the pants for $45,000. That's kind of the joke here. So Kaz Hayashi is buying all of the gear of Glacier. So Glacier is literally giving away his entire gimmick. He's gonna be stripped down to nothing at this point.
I like how that's what you got out of that, and what I got out of it was, how is Cash having this much money to spend on ring apparel? He just bought. I think he spent $60,000 on Glacier's outfit.
He really did,
and which is fucking hilarious. Like that to think that Kaz Hayashi, he has more money than Raven.
He really does. That's who Kane should be partying with. Thank you for making my point from earlier. Yeah. We then cut to Tori Wilson, who is now inviting us into an elevator with her, and then we go back to Raven and Canyon. They're at Versace, or however Canyon pronounced Versace. Canyon is in love with Raven for buying him all these clothes. And they cut to a montage of him trying on a few different outfits. And I got to be honest, I feel like Canyon was having a blast filming these scenes.
This was like Dumb and Dumber meets Night at the Roxbury montage. It was like it was the cheesiest, corniest, like 90s, like buddy comedy sketch. And yeah, Buchanan just looked like, I think it looked like both of them were just having just fun, like doing something that wasn't wrestling related and doing these like little vignettes. I feel like this part, even though they weren't wrestling and they haven't been on TV, I feel like this is like a little like vacation for these guys, and they're just having just fun with it.
Right. That said, what we weren't having fun with, and you especially, was our next match with Disco Inferno versus Chris Adams. Of course, Chris Adams is the one who won the first match against Macho Man on Thunder. We do get Disco Inferno hitting his dancing elbow, which I know you appreciate because now it's you had an issue with Disco not being the true Disco recently in a match. But we're going to interrupt this match to go to the backstage. We got something important here, and it's Kaz Hayashi and the Cat. As Kaz is all dressed up, the Cat's going to grab Glacier's helmet and the eye that the contact lens that Glacier wears.
Did Glacier ever wear that hat? That hat does not match any part of the rest of the outfit.
I don't recognize the hat at all. Kaz is really disappointed that he doesn't get the eye and the helmet. And that's it. And we go back to the match to find out we got Chris Adams and Disco fighting on the outside. And I just love the fan that was going nuts, yelling at Chris Adams to smash Disco's face on the guardrail in front of him. And Chris Adams delivers like the face that he is. Unfortunately, he's going to go for the super kick, but Disco is going to pull Charles Robinson in the way, and being the face that he is, Chris Adams is going to hold back, and then Chartbuster for the 3. I honestly gave it 2.25 stars because I think even with the stupid interruption, I felt like it was the best match that we've seen tonight.
Wholeheartedly disagree. I think that the Finlay handicap match against Chavo and Kidman was a much better match than this. I gave this a star and 3/4. I'm sure the match was fine. We got to see a nice power bomb, which I think Chris Adams sets up for the super kick, and so I thought that was cool. That you know a lot of these power moves you don't see much anymore unless they're actual finishers. But what the hell was up with that hard cut? It wasn't like a split screen. It was just just take you completely out of the match. So I'm sorry, for production purposes, I had to take this down a couple notches and put it down to a star and 3/4.
Yeah, I don't blame you there.
Especially when, it was one of those things where we would argue about and complain about there being a match and being like, oh, there's something going on. Oh, it's a limo and Hogan's here. And it's kind of like, who gives a shit? But at least it's Hogan. And in this case,
this was the end of Glacier, and Kaz Hayashi and the Cat buys a helmet and a contact lens. I mean, what more story-driven content do you want in a pre-taped Thunder?
Well, maybe if they got out of a limo.
All right.
Maybe I would have liked it more.
I know what you did like more, and that's Tori Wilson in a hotel room telling us to sit down on the bed.
Yeah.
So this is just heating up right now.
I can't wait for the next segment that should be coming up, right?
Right. We then go to Mean Gene, and I'm going to stress the word mean in this segment.
The third mean guy that we know.
Billy Kidman backstage. Mean Gene's going to ask Kidman about their tag team match, his and Chavo's, and says, man, Chavo really let you down. And Kidman, being the good guy that he is, says, no, we're not a tag team. We're not used to being a tag team. We probably lack that communication. A very, PC type answer. And Mean Gene just continues to try to say that Chavo undermined him and let Kidman down. And then Chavo's going to show up and, kind of say, hey, how's it going? And Kidman and, and Chavo seem cool with each other. And that's what Mean Gene's going to say. Kidman told me you said it was all his fault or all your fault that you lost the match. And this is going to, instantly piss Chavo off. He's going to take out Kidman and say, you dropped the ball. And I got to be honest, Mean Gene totally made this whole, angle happen, right?
Way to create a decent story. He booked a match for Super Bowl is what he did.
He really did.
What I thought was cool as that was that Gene, the fucking shit stirrer he was talking like it was like a ladies' book club meeting and just gossiping a little bit like, oh, did you hear what I heard from this guy? I just love that after Chavo attacks him, Gene gets mad at Chavo and tells him, get him out of here.
Yeah, what was that?
Oh, man, Gene can do no wrong. I miss that guy.
No doubt. We then get a Bam Bam promo. And after that, we get Canyon and Raven. They were at the Gold Club, and now they're back at Raven's. Canyon apparently loved his day. And then we're going to find out from Raven that the witch is home. That's what he says to the camera. We find out the witch, of course, is his mom. She says that she lets him know that WCW called and they want him to back to work. And then he looks at the camera and says, she's not too bright. So
one big thing about this, they go out that night and they party. They get home at night and they're like, man, this was a fun night. What a good night we had. And then they're like, they realize, your mom's home. And they're like, okay, well, so they try to work. They get back in the house. He dresses back into the outfit he was wearing before to throw her off the scent. And it's daylight again. And it looks like she just got back from her board meeting that apparently took all night. This whole fucking thing is just like, I don't work in Hollywood. I'm not a producer. I'm not a director. I'm not going to try to pretend that I know how to write storylines or, I've never written a script for a movie, but God damn it, have some continuity. God damn it.
What do you want? We just saw a segment with Kaz Hayashi buying Glacier's uniform, all right?
Dude, look, you just 5 minutes ago, you were saying how that's like probably the best part of the show, and now you're shitting on it? You got to stay. Pick a side of the fence, dude.
I'm going to use it for whatever my agenda is in that moment, all right?
That's true.
We then get our second replay of the night. Of course, you alluded to it earlier. The commentary alluded to it earlier. Bret Hart and Roddy Piper wrestling for the U.S. title on Nitro. Piper at one point is getting strangled with cords on the outside by Bret. Bret then is going to pull someone out of the stands and choke them. At the time, I'm like, oh shit, it's that fat guy from Mad TV. I couldn't remember his name. I literally Googled fat guy from Mad TV, and then they reminded me it was Will Sasso. We then find in this match with Piper and Bret Hart that Mickey J's down and gets knocked out in the middle of the match. This is when Tony, of course, is going to allude to Will Sasso, who is apparently allowed to just stand outside the ring now because he got pulled in by Bret. Bret Hart's going to pull out the old dick knuckles and lay out Piper. Mickey J's going to get ready for the pin, but Will Sasso is going to hold his leg. Him and Bret Hart are in a tug of war over Mickey J. And then Piper's going to curl up Bret for the 3 count. And now we've got Roddy Piper versus Scott Hall at Super Raw for the United States title.
Which makes more sense. I think the whole Bret Hart versus Scott Hall was just a weird booking in general, and with no real. There's always still kind of to be like the good guy, bad guy, sort of, unless there's like a something you can book or promote a little while and maybe create a dissension. But they weren't going to do that with this match, so I'm actually glad that Piper took the title from Bret. Also, it seemed like Bret either is still nursing an injury and really can't be full time right now.
That's got to be what's going on here.
So who else would you want to give it to than another part timer that really can only wrestle once a month?
Right. We then cut to some segment with Hogan talking to the NWO in the locker room, one at a time. The B Squad. He starts with good old Horace Hogan. Tells him that he wants Horace to take over the Black and White. Then he has a similar conversation with Bryan Adams, who says it's about time. Then he tells Stevie Ray that you're the man to run the NWO. And then ultimately he ends with Vince tells him he wants to lead and keep that group together. And Vince says, I'm the daddy. So we got Hogan just fucking with the whole B team at this point.
Which is it's funny and very interesting that Hogan is sabotaging like his own dudes.
Right. We then go to our main event, Kyle. It doesn't get much. I mean, we've had some doozies of main events recently, but this time we got Van Hammer and Mr. Glacier himself, Kaz Hayashi, wrestling Dean Malenko and Chris Benoit. And I believe this is also for the tag team tournament.
Now, before we start, on paper, before you ever saw either one of these matches yesterday or last week and this week, what is more egregious? Putting Bobby Duncombe Jr. in a main event or putting Van Hammer in a main event? Or do you think this the combination of a lot of the guys from last week makes it worse? Basically what I'm saying is, what's the worst Thunder main event? This one or last week?
Last week's was worse, but let's be honest. Providence, Rhode Island got hosed big time.
Oh my God, I feel so bad for those guys.
They got terrible wrestling for 4 hours. We do find out DDP is going to be on later this evening, which is with Rita Severa. And they kind of give a little segment where she's backstage and she gives her best DDP DDP impression where she talks about Hollywood scum Hogan and feeling the bang and God knows what else.
I think she threw in some Macho Man and some Flair in there as well. Just kind of mixed a little bit of everything.
I thought it was a pretty good impression, though. We gotta be honest.
I was fine with it, but then DDP had to ruin it all by being a creep and saying that she's a bit scary, and I like it.
Yep.
Did you also notice that there's a guy that was sitting next to DDP? Like, do you recognize that guy?
I can't picture him right now, but I feel like at the time I did recognize him.
Now, I think I'm wrong, but I first thought it was the oldest son from Home Improvement.
No,
as
I
a
don't think
little
that's
bit
who
older.
it was.
I don't think it is, but he's definitely a '90s sitcom dude, and I just don't know from what. And it was bugging me, and I Googled everywhere, just like '90s sitcom guys or whatever, and I couldn't find him. But he definitely has like that face of either somebody that was on like a Nickelodeon show or like something from like a TGIF show. I couldn't figure it out, and it was really, really bugging me.
I wish I would go back and watch that segment to give you a better answer. Maybe our listeners at home can probably let us know. That said, as far as this match goes, we do find out Chavo and Kidman is now signed for Super Brawl, so kudos to you, Mean Gene. And it's weird is they're trying to promote that match. They say, the signs were there during all their tag team matches, that there was a lot of dissension there between the two of them. And I feel like that wasn't the case at all. I mean, I know Chavo accidentally drop kicks the chair into Kidman, but I feel like for the most part, they were a good tag team together. So, I don't know. Mike Tenay at one point during this match confuses Van Hammer for Wrath. So Wrath's career is really done at this point.
Well, especially if Kaz is replacing Wrath. Right. I think that's the big, like, you lost to Disco Inferno, and now you're no longer good enough to be on TV with Van Hammer. So,
right. Ultimately, we're going to get a crippler crossface for the win. I gave it 2.5 stars because I do think this was the best match of the night. But I don't think it was that great of a match. But I kind of rated other ones, higher, so I had to give it to this. I thought the ending was solid, though. But I was not really invested in this match at all.
I gave it 2 stars. Again, the match wasn't bad. I think it needed to be shorter. But once again, that's the problem with running matches that are, that are just longer. They only work if the match is good in the first place. And like I said, we can talk all we want about Benoit and Malenko. We're not going to shit on their work rate. They were, amazing wrestlers. But when you put them up against Kaz, Hayashi, and Van Hammer, it feels like an extended waiting period before one of them just taps out to something. So, like, I feel like for a main event especially, like, you need to have some suspension or disbelief. And once again, this didn't really provide it. At the same time, though, we've already seen the results of the last 2 tag matches. And at this point, like, I guess anything can happen. Because if we were going to go with money on the table, who I thought was going to win those other ones, I already would have been out money on both of those other 2 matches. So who the fuck knows? I am glad that the right team won this time, especially because imagine if Malenko and Benoit get eliminated from the tag tournament via Kaz Hayashi and Van fucking Hammer.
That would have been something, though, right? I mean. Right.
I mean, we can look forward to Kaz Hayashi and Van Hammer versus Mean Mike Enos and Bobby Duncombe Jr. I
feel like at this point, Barry Windham and Kurt Hennig versus Dean and Chris has to be our finals for this tag team tournament, right?
It's literally the only thing that is even remotely pay-per-view worthy. But what's sad about that is the one loss that Dean Malenko and Benoit have. They've already lost to those 2 guys. So you're going to tell me that they're going to go to Super Brawl and just fight them again? And I'm also curious if has Windham and Hennig lost it all in this tournament? Because if they go all the way to Super Brawl without being eliminated, does that mean like they have to lose twice because it's a double elimination? Like, I don't know. We'll see how things go, but I would assume at some point Barry Windham and Kurt Hennig need to lose once.
Yes, right. And maybe they'll tell us that, or maybe they won't. Well, they don't even give a shit about the double elimination, and they'll just crown whoever wins it at Super Brawl.
Wouldn't be shocked.
That said, while you were chatting there, I did pull up the network and go back to that DDP scene. It is the brother from the Wonder Years. That's who that guy is.
Holy shit, that is Kevin Arnold's older brother.
Yeah. So.
Nice job. Well done, dude.
That said, that is our show. What did you think about episode 50 of Thunder, Kyle?
2 hours, man. 5 matches. 3 of which for the tag tournament, and 2 throwaway singles matches. A shit ton of replays from Nitro. The Tori Wilson packages, as much as my hormones enjoyed them then and now, as well as the Raven segments, they were fun to watch, but they were all from Nitro. Like, they were all just these were stuff that we already, if we're watching Nitro, which I assume you would be if you're watching Thunder, we've seen these already, so these are just replays. We also saw most of the Bret Hart and Piper match. Like I said, there was only 5 new matches on the show, and because of that, they had to air all of that filler. It's clear that Thunder really doesn't need to exist every week. I think that's what I'm starting to see in these last couple of weeks of Thunder. Because that's the danger of doing 5 hours now, because I know now that Nitro is 3 hours and Thunder is 2 hours. I feel like if Nitro stayed at 2 and Thunder went to 1, I think they would have a better quality product. But once again, I guess they want to keep the ratings going up. I guess the ratings goes higher if they keep the show on for longer. But it was a really uninteresting show. A lot of repeated stories. Although I will say the effort from the wrestlers wasn't bad. That's the one thing I will not say was bad. Now, maybe the talent wasn't the best that we saw, but I think they gave it what they could give. The highlights were Thunder debut of Lash Leroux, and we had 2 heel turns in Barbarian, Hart, and Chavo. So I guess there were some things to write home about, but overall, really uninteresting.
I mean, I got to be honest. I thought it was an entertaining Thunder for weird reasons. I mean, don't get me wrong. The in-ring matches weren't great at all, but a lot of things happened. And that's kind of all we can ask for when we're watching Thunder, right? I mean, like, for stuff to talk about. Maybe in 1999 I would have been like, well, that was shit. But here we are, 20 years later, and we're able to talk about this tag team tournament that's all the fuck over the place. We got Chavo and Kidman in a match now, thanks to me and Gene. Keep in mind, this is a pre-taped Thunder, so all this really happened a week before, and now we got Chavo versus Kidman. We've got Ming versus Barbarian. We have 2 matches now set up for Super Brawl, thanks to something that happened on Thunder. I'm kind of assuming that Ming and Barbarian at Super Brawl, it may not happen that way. We get Tori Wilson, so that's awesome. And then ultimately we got the most important thing that happened. Glacier's entire gimmick is done. It is now owned by Kaz Hayashi and the Cat. So we witnessed the funeral of Glacier. What more could you ask for in a Thunder?
I don't know. I don't want to see the death of Glacier. I mean, I like Glacier. I mean, once again, I like him for all the wrong reasons of liking a wrestler. It's kind of like watching a car. Sorry, I'm not doing another NASCAR reference. We already did one last week. But no, it's kind of just like, I don't like Glacier because I thought he was the next big thing of wrestling. But I actually thought the gimmick was halfway entertaining in a cheesy, corny 90s type of way. Obviously it served a purpose of why they wanted to use him, but it definitely has overstayed its welcome. But yeah, it's I don't know. I just think overall the show just didn't really do much for me. But once again, didn't Tori Wilson, and I don't mean to talk in front, but I'm trying to remember why Tori Wilson was even debuted, like who she was with when it was it Flair?
It's a Flair, yeah.
It's a Flair, yeah. That's what I thought. Like, I thought for some reason like this was supposed to be like either Ric Flair or David Flair's like valet, and I didn't know.
Yeah, she starts coming out with David Flair, so that's who I guess the reveal is going to be. That's in the hotel room with her, but I was waiting for that reveal on Thunder, and we didn't get it.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
That said, that's our show. So if you haven't yet, subscribed, left us a review, all that, you know where to find us. Go do that. Then, go follow us over on social media. We're on Twitter at Thundercraps and also on Facebook. And, of course, you can always go to thundercraps.com for all previous 50 episodes of Thunder. And then that said, go check out Thunder 51, February 18th, 1999, a day after I turned 14 years old. And, Tori Wilson at 14, that is a man's dream. And then, of course, that is going to be the go-home show for Super Brawl 1999. For Kyle Hogan, I'm Josh Kaiser, and we will see you next time on the Thundercraps podcast.
We are versacingly out of time. See ya.